Event, response, reaction. Now, what am I talking about here? Now, we have these events that happen, right? Things that happen to us as we are living life. Someone cuts us off in the middle of the highway. Um, a truck is driving extremely slow on the highway, uh, right? Um, Someone is, talking to their phone on the highway while they're driving, and somebody notices it. These these are events, right? These are things that things outside of us that happen, but there is a process that happens inside of us, right? So the event happens, and then you react to it, and then you respond. I take that back. I mixed that up. There are events, responses, and then reactions, right? So an event happens, somebody cuts you off on the highway, right? And you respond to it internally, right? And there's a whole process to that too. I'm gonna break that down too. But there's a response to the event. And then if you aren't in control of this process, then there is a reaction, right? So the reaction may be now the response. Let's start with the response. The response is how you feel about the event, right? Here perfect example. Look at this perfect example. So we got some guys out here doing doing their job, right? Out here working, but they're also kind of blocking traffic. So I can't make this left turn that I need to make. And if they weren't there, then the car in front of me, right? So them being there is the event, right? And now they're leaving, right? Perfect timing. Now that I've been caught by a red light. But but had they not been there, the car in front of me would not have hesitated to turn, right? Now they made the turn. They were able to turn. They made it in time. But they wouldn't have hesitated, which means I wouldn't have missed the light. I could have made the light. And I hate that turn too. I don't know. I always hit the red light at that turn. Always. But anyway, um, but that's the event. There's some road workers there doing their job. Some road workers are there, and as a matter of fact, there you can hear the rocks and stuff, under the car. Yeah. Lots of events, lots of events for me to respond and react to, right? So the event is the workers are there, right? The response is, the hesitation, the or the response is, the uh, the hesitation is part of the response, right? You know, the reaction is could have been, me being angry and cussing, right? That could have been the reaction, right? But you see, that wasn't the reaction. The reaction was actually telling you about it, right? Because the response was, I stopped dead in my tracks as I was talking and giving you this game, right? You know, and then the reaction was, you know, telling you about what, what I'm saying, like what deviating from what I was talking about at the time. But I still brought it back to what we were talking about. So, But anyway, event, response, reaction. Now let's break down the response part, right? Now the response is your interpretation of the event. All of this is happening like quickly, like in like real time, right? But it's your interpretation of the event, um, how you feel about the event, and then as you know, as a feeling happens about the event, or how, what I'm saying, like how you feel about the event, as that takes place, then it's like a filtering system. You're filtering, you know, you're filtering the information of that event, you know, through your past experiences, your beliefs, your convictions, how you see yourself, your identity, self-image, all of that. You're filtering it through all of these different filters, different layers, and as it filters through all of those layers, then there is a reaction, right? So, depending on, your filtering system, right? The reaction could be, you cussing somebody out. Somebody cuts you off. There's some workers, doing their job that cause you to, miss a light. Um, the reaction could be cussing them out, even though they're not going to know. They're not going to hear you because you're in your car. But that could be the reaction, or there could be no reaction at all. See, there's going to be a response, right? There's going to be a response because you're filtering the information um, as it happens, right? As you can see, there was a response from me. Like if you go back and do the playback of this video, there was a response. I responded when um, when I saw those workers. Then I responded when the car in front of me hesitated because they saw the workers, right? So the point I'm trying to make is you have to slow down and realize that there is a process to these things happening, right? Now, if there's some people and you know them, we all know them. They just kind of fly off the handle. They raise their voice. They get loud. They just say whatever when stuff happens, right? We all know these types of people, right? These people, they either don't know that they have this process or they don't care that they have this process. See, some people are kind of slaves to this process, right? They, an event happens, they react, or they respond and then they react without even thinking about it, right? And they think they're doing some sort of you know some sort of justice work or something. They think they're they think they're doing God's work by their reaction. I told them a little something. You know that attitude, right? Um, but that's how their minds work. That's how they think, right? Um, but again, they either are ignorant, ignorant of this process, right? Or they just don't care about the process because they have to get to that reaction. So the point I'm trying to make to you as you are watching this video and listening to the sound of my voice is that you have to slow down that process. You have to acknowledge that process, slow down that process, right? And now this is going to sound very, very cheesy when I say this, right? But when an event happens, right, and that you're starting that response um, process, right? I've used the word process so many times. I don't know how I wasn't able to figure it out. But you start that response process, right? Recognize you're in that response process right now. You know, you're interpreting this event based off of where you are in life, in that moment, right? You're having a feeling about that event, you know, and you can say that you're not, but you are. We have feelings about these events. It's just that we don't react to these feelings, right? Um, Usually the feeling is the strongest part because that's like your filtering system, you know, like I said, based off of your past experiences, right? So This is all, you know, it sounds exhaustive, but it's literally happening like that. And we don't even realize it a lot of times. So, like I said, acknowledge that there is a process, first of all, right? And when you acknowledge that there's a process and you know the components of the process, then you know that, you know, you don't have to react to those components. As a matter of fact, when you acknowledge the process, you automatically don't react. You automatically don't react because now your mind is on the process. Your mind is not on reacting to the event, you know, or your response to the event. Your mind is on the response. Your mind is on the response process. It's not even, you know what I'm saying? Like, you honestly probably don't even have the brain capacity to have a reaction because your mind is focused on the response process. So I just wanted to break that down. It's literally just popped in my head as I was listening to one of my mentors, and um, he didn't even say anything about this, but for some reason it just kind of popped up in my head. But event, response, reaction. You know, acknowledge the fact that there is a response process, and you know, as you focus on that response process, you know, you won't even react to certain situations, right? I'll give you an example, right? I'll give you an example. So let's say you're, I don't know, you know, at an event, at a party or something like that, and you know, at a friend's house, and your friend is drunk, or not even necessarily drunk, but this is just a combative friend, right? Let's say this combative friend, for some odd reason, decides to, you know, I don't know, get in your face, or you guys are having a disagreement about something, and they get angry, they get mad, right? Their response, you know, they're responding, you know, they're having their own response process, and they're reacting to that response process, right? So they're getting upset because you guys are having a disagreement. You don't see things the way they see it, right? So when that response process starts, right? Like, yeah, it might catch you off guard especially if they start yelling at you or something, right? Now, part of that filtering system is, you know, your values, right? If you if you if you have a rule that states no one is going to yell at me, I'm not going to be yelled at, right? Then that's part of your filtering system. Okay, this person, you know, or that's part of your response process. That's part of your, you know, that's one of your filters, right? So the event is this person is yelling at me, right? So now part of my response process is, you know, I feel startled. I'm interpreting this information, you know, as yelling. First of all, you're interpreting this information as yelling, right? Because especially black people, you know, you know, we talk loud. We talk loud, so we're not necessarily yelling. You know, sometimes you gotta, you know, you hear that's an event right there for your ass. Like you hear some black people talking loud, you know, and you know your response, part of your response process is like, oh shit, you know, they fighting. You know what I'm saying? So and then you know your reaction might be to, you know, either run away, or if you're like me, you know, get closer and see what's going on. But anyway, that's another topic. Um, but that's part of your filtering system, right? You know, loud voice equals I'm being yelled at right now. I don't like being yelled at. So against my rules, I won't be yelled at. So therefore, I feel disrespected right now, right? That's part of the, you know, that's the feeling filter, right? I feel disrespected right now, you know, because I believe that, and this is literally all happening, you know, within like a split second, right? You don't even necessarily realize it or acknowledge it. But, you know, I don't like being yelled at. I would not be yelled at. So therefore, I have to react to this situation, right? Now, if you've done the work, right, your reaction doesn't have to be, you know, yelling back. Your reaction could be calmly saying, "Hey, I'll listen to you, but I will not be yelled at. So I'm gonna need you to bring that down a little bit, right?" That could be your reaction, or like I said, your reaction could be to just go off on them right back, whatever. Um, but like I said, the whole point is this: acknowledge the fact that there is a reaction. Acknowledge the fact that there is a response process, right? Um, and like when you get really good at it, you'll start breaking down someone else's response process, right? You know, say for instance that event where your friend is yelling at you, right? You start breaking down their response process. You know, like, oh, that okay. The event was what I said. The event was I said Pepsi is better than Coke, whatever, whatever the situation was, and because it really is Pepsi is better than Coke, but I said Pepsi was better than Coke. You know, they interpreted they interpreted that as I'm disrespecting Coca Cola, which means I'm disrespecting them. So their part of their response is, you know, they feel slighted, they feel disrespected because they got a real emotional connection to Coke. Like they must got some Coke stock or something, right? as, you, as you start playing around with this, like it'll literally become funny to you. Certain things won't even bother you because it'll just be funny to you, right? Um, it's almost a game. So anyway, event, response, reaction, right? Acknowledge the fact that there is a response process, and you know, pay attention to the response process. I'm at to write about this. It'll probably be in the, somewhere. It'll be somewhere. All right. Hopefully this helped. Definitely helped me out as always. Talk to you next time.